all of it did talk about his food. He talked about deep freezers and refrigerators, stacking them up, and I decided I'm coming back home and I'm going to build a restaurant. German-type restaurant, and I'm going to stack it up and never be hungry again.
February 1st, 1966. Dieter Dengler, a 27-year-old United States Navy pilot, soared above the dense jungles of Laos on a classified bombing mission. But as he descended toward his target, his aircraft was struck by enemy fire, forcing him to eject into one of the most hostile terrains on Earth. Captured by Pathet Lao forces, Dieter faced unimaginable brutality in a makeshift prison camp. Who was this man, and how did he manage to escape against all odds? What inspired his unyielding spirit to survive when so many others had given up? Dieter was born in 1938 during the chaotic shadows of World War II. His early years in the Black Forest of Germany were marked by fear, as he often watched air raids destroy his village. The death of his father, which thrust the family into poverty, forged in Dieter a resilient spirit that would later prove vital. With the dream of flying embedded in his heart, he immigrated to the United States in 1957, driven by hope and determination. Upon arriving in New York City, he faced the harshness of being an immigrant, but quickly adapted. "I always dreamed of coming to America. I knew it was the land of opportunity," he would recall, emphasizing his unyielding desire to overcome every obstacle in his path. In 1963, 6 years after arriving in America, Dieter Dengler joined the Navy, graduated from NAVCAD, and achieved his lifelong dream of becoming a pilot. In the summer of 1965, he was assigned to Attack Squadron 145 and flew a single-prop attack plane off the USS Ranger. Before the USS Ranger departed for Vietnam, Dengler attended survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training in San Diego, where he sharpened his essential survival and combat skills. Additionally, during this time, he became engaged to Mariana Adamick. During his service with VA 145, Dengler flew the Douglas A-1 Skyraider on various missions, including combat air patrols, interdiction strikes, and close air support. VA 145 was among the first squadrons deployed to Vietnam, arriving in August 1964. The squadron gained recognition for its bravery and heroism in combat, rescuing downed aviators and earning multiple unit citations. In the summer of 1965, Dieter Dengler found himself aboard the USS Ranger, ready for the intense missions ahead. His calm demeanor and exceptional training quickly earned him respect among his peers as a skilled aviator. From 1964 to 1973, the U.S. conducted covert bombing missions over Laos to undermine the communist Pathet Lao regime, which was allied with North Vietnam and the Soviet Union. During these missions, over 2 million tons of cluster bombs were dropped on the region. On February 1st, 1966, Dieter Dengler's life took a dramatic turn when his plane was shot down during a bombing run over Laos. Amidst the chaos of enemy artillery tearing through his aircraft, Dengler managed to eject, landing deep in the hostile jungle. Despite the dire circumstances, he remained resilient, later stating, "I knew I wasn't going to die in that camp." That day, Dengler departed the USS Ranger with 3 other aircraft on a mission targeting a North Vietnamese truck convoy. Thunderstorms forced the group to divert to a secondary target, a road intersection west of Mu Gyi Pass in Laos. U.S. air operations in Laos were highly classified, and the mission was complicated by poor visibility from smoke-filled skies. While flying deep into enemy territory, Dengler lost sight of the other planes. After 2.5 hours, his aircraft was struck by anti-air fire, and the right wing was blown off. After ejecting, Dengler destroyed his survival radio and concealed most of his equipment to avoid detection by enemy search parties. Despite his efforts, he was captured the following day by Pathet Lao troops. In a desperate escape attempt, he drank from a spring but was quickly recaptured. His punishment was brutal. Dengler recalled being subjected to horrific torture, including being hung upside down by his ankles with a nest of biting ants positioned over his face until he lost consciousness. He was also suspended in a well overnight, where he risked drowning if he fell asleep, and dragged through villages by a water buffalo. When Dieter Dengler refused to sign a Pathet Lao document condemning the United States, his captors increased their torture. They shoved sharp bamboo slivers under his fingernails and into cuts on his body. Eventually, they handed him over to the Vietnamese, who sent him to a prison camp near the village of Par Kong. There, he met other prisoners, including Americans Eugene de Bruin and Duane W. Martin, as well as Thai and Chinese captives. Except for Martin, a U.S. Air Force helicopter pilot, the others were civilians working for Air America, a CIA-owned airline. By the time Dengler arrived, the civilians had already endured over 2.5 years of captivity. The conditions were horrific. At night, the prisoners were handcuffed together and had their feet locked into wooden blocks. They battled constant dysentery and unimaginable suffering. Dengler was held in a small camp alongside 2 other Americans, Duane Martin and Jean de Bruin, and 3 Thai prisoners, Prasit Thani, Prasit Perswan, and Prasit Isarat. Each night, their feet were locked in blocks, but the prisoners eventually figured out how to unlock them by making makeshift keys crafted from melted toothpaste tubes. Despite their suffering, they clung to hope and found ways to resist their captors. Their fragile hope turned into urgent resolve as a chilling realization set in. Their lives were in imminent danger when the prisoners overheard the guards discussing plans to kill them, likely to avoid the hassle of feeding them. Knowing they had to act fast, Dieter closely observed the guards' routines and began crafting an escape plan. "We would rather die free in the bushes than at the hands of the communists," he declared. His determination inspired other prisoners who banded together under his leadership. They scavenged for materials, crafting weapons and tools, and carefully studied the layout of the camp. With time running out, the group decided to escape before they became too weak to act. Using a scale model of the camp they had secretly built, they chose the right moment to strike, when the number of guards was low. Dieter had only one mindset: success or death. "If we tried and failed, I expected to die trying, or be executed after," he later shared. There was no room for hesitation. As Dieter often said after the war, "We would rather die free in the bushes than at the communist hands." They selected June 29, 1966 for their daring escape attempt, intending to use the rainy season as cover to mask their movements. "This is our only chance," Dieter reminded his fellow captives, rallying their spirits as their precarious plan took shape. Each detail was honed in whispered discussions during long sleepless nights. The tension grew as the fateful day approached, each of them eager to seize their shot at freedom. One of the American prisoners, Jean de Bruin, decided to stay behind near the camp with a sick prisoner who had been part of his captured flight crew. On the appointed day, after receiving the word that the guards were together in the kitchen and without weapons, Dieter gave the signal. They squeezed out of their hut, and Dieter made it to the porch. Dieter grabbed 2 Chinese rifles and a US M1 carbine, as well as extra ammunition. Dieter felt bullets fly past his head and fired back, shooting one armed guard and another who attacked with a machete. Chaos erupted as the prisoners fled into the dense jungle. Dieter and 7 other prisoners escaped the Pathet Lao camp, separating soon after. "It was chaos," Dieter recalled, "but we had to act fast or we wouldn't make it." Dengler stayed with fellow escapee Lieutenant Duane Martin, a 26-year-old helicopter pilot from Denver, Colorado. Only Dengler and a Thai citizen prisoner, Prasit Isarat, survived the trek to safety. The escape unfolded dramatically, with chaos erupting as the prisoners sprang into action, utilizing their crude weapons to neutralize the guards. "It was a gamble, but one worth taking," Dieter thought as he fled into the dense jungle, each step a battle against the elements. The monsoon rains poured, leeches clung to their skin, and exhaustion gripped their bodies. Dieter and Duane Martin remained together, their bond forged through shared suffering and a common goal: to survive. As days turned to weeks, the two men grew weaker, surviving on insects, raw plants, and contaminated water. Then, tragedy struck. While searching for food in a nearby village, they were discovered. A boy's cry of "Americali" brought armed villagers. Unarmed and exhausted, Dieter and Dwayne fell to their knees. In a horrifying instant, a villager attacked Dwayne, slashing his leg and then his neck. Dieter watched in stunned horror as his friend was beheaded. Blood soaked the trail as Dwayne's remains lay abandoned. Barely evading the next strike, Dieter fled back into the jungle, pursued by searchers. Starving and delirious, he scavenged leftovers from enemy camps and collapsed in a river. Awakening to the sound of an engine, he spotted a U.S. reconnaissance plane. With renewed hope, he crafted an SOS signal from parachute remains and lit a fire. On July 20th, 1966, his signal was seen. A U.S. helicopter, piloted by Captain William "Skip" Cowell, approached. Unaware of who they were rescuing, the crew lowered a hoist. Weak but determined, Dieter grabbed on and was pulled to safety. The emaciated pilot weighed only 93 pounds, his body ravaged by disease and hunger. 6 months after his plane crash in Laos, Dieter Dengler was free. He sent a simple but profound message to his future wife. "I escaped from prison, alive in hospital. We'll be home soon. Love you, Dieter." Soon after, they eloped to Reno, beginning a new chapter of life. But Dieter was in for a long period of recovery. When he was admitted to the hospital, Dieter weighed 98 pounds. He was found to have 2 types of malaria: intestinal worms, fungus, jaundice, and hepatitis. Doctors said he was so malnourished that if he hadn't been picked up when he would have died that day or the next. Dieter Dengler became a national hero. His story was in every major newspaper and television broadcast. Dengler's escape was a remarkable feat of courage and endurance. It was also a major propaganda victory for the United States. Dengler was awarded the Navy Cross for his actions on February 18, 1966, when he was shot down over Laos, held as a POW, and then spent 23 days in the jungle evading capture. He was awarded the Navy Cross in July 1967, after he had already been held in captivity for a year. His escape captivated the nation, making headlines and inspiring countless individuals. Dieter's journey from a war-torn youth in Germany to a surviving war hero redefined the idea of resilience and the human spirit. In his autobiography, Escape from Laos, he shared, "I wasn't a hero, I just wanted to live." His incredible ability to endure the endurable left an indelible mark on many, a testament to the strength found even in the darkest of times. The years following his rescue brought Dieter's adventure into the spotlight. He became an advocate for prisoners of war, emphasizing the untold stories of those like him who had endured unimaginable challenges. He maintained friendships with fellow veterans and continued to fly as a commercial pilot. Yet, the scars of his past lingered, evident in the struggles many veterans faced returning to civilian life. Dieter Dengler's story is one of remarkable courage and resilience, illustrating that the human spirit can thrive even against the most forbidding odds. On February 7, 2001, after a long battle with ALS, he took his final flight, choosing to end his life on his own terms. His funeral was held at Arlington National Cemetery, a testament to his service and sacrifice. Dieter's legacy lives on through books, films, and the countless lives he's touched. As he once said, "You don't know what freedom is until you have escaped from communist capture." If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to Breakout Bank for more videos.